From the outside, everything seemed normal, but my health was silently deteriorating, and the reason was very different from what I had imagined. Emily was struggling to look at the screen, her fingers freezing on the keys in the middle of the presentation. The slides were waiting, but her mind was blank. All 20 people sitting at their desks in the open office were looking at her. The quarterly report she was preparing for the firm's most important client had to be presented today. Marcus, even he, had said so. There can't be any mistakes in this presentation. Emily, it's very critical for us, he'd said before coming home that morning. Emily took a deep breath. Her vision blurred, and she had to hold onto the edge of the table. Rebecca sat beside her, looking at her worriedly. "Emily, are you all right?" she whispered. Emily only nodded and tried to continue the presentation, but the words wouldn't come out properly. She made sounds, but they were meaningless. "1 minute," she said, rising from her chair. Her legs wouldn't carry her. She left the room, went to the bathroom, and looked in the mirror. Her surroundings were covered in glistening sweat, her face pale and drawn. The pressure in her chest was intense, as if someone had grasped and squeezed it. Her breath came in short, ragged gasps. "This too shall pass," she told herself. She poured herself a glass of water and drank a little. The past 3 months had been very stressful. She was managing new projects, and as Marcus's work demands increased, she was also putting up with housework. She had worked until a.m. last night. This morning she had gotten up and gotten ready at 6 a.m. Her body must have been exhausted. She had read that people react like that when they have a heavy workload. She came out of the restroom and returned to her office. Rebecca looked at her anxiously, but Emily managed a small smile. "There's a hot chime, that's all," she said. She continued the presentation, but with each slide, the pressure in her chest increased, making it difficult to breathe. She finally finished the presentation. The manager nodded. "Good work, Emily. The client will be satisfied." But Emily wasn't happy. She walked out of the office and leaned against the outer wall. The hallway was empty. With trembling hands, she reached for her wallet and called Marcus. "Hi," Marcus said quickly. His tone sounded impatient. People were talking in the background. He must have been in a client meeting. "How did your presentation go?" "It was successful," Emily said, but her voice was weak. "Marcus, I feel strange. I'm having trouble breathing. My chest is tight and I'm dizzy." "Stress," Marcus said quickly. "There's stress after the big presentation. Relax a bit at home. You were like this when you first got your job. There's no need for him to go to the doctor and find things that aren't there." "But, Emily, I'm here with the clients. We'll talk this evening. Take care." She hung up the phone. Emily held the phone, wanting to listen, but she knew Marcus wouldn't talk. He was always like that. Every problem had a simple solution. Instead of crying, get some rest. Instead of going to the doctor, take some vitamins. Instead of going to a psychologist, study harder. He believed that discipline was the key to everything. Emily went home. The apartment was quiet. Marcus's shoes weren't there. He'd be in client meetings all day. Emily got into bed but couldn't sleep. The pressure in her chest was still there. She looked at her phone. It was 3 o'clock. She received a message. It wasn't from Marcus. "Emily, my love, is everything all right? I left work a little early." A whole sentence like a song. Words of love, but empty. Emily didn't reply. Evening came. Marcus arrived home. He dropped his bag and took off his jacket. "Hello," he said, frowning when he saw Emily in the bedroom. "Are you still in bed? Did she make dinner?" "Marcus, I feel terrible," Emily said. Marcus sat beside her, but his movements were mechanical. "I want to go to the doctor. Something serious might have happened that needs to be removed. I have chest pain. I can't breathe." "Stress," Marcus said sharply. "Emily, we're in a very important period. My promotion depends on this project. We can't pretend to be sick right now. This will pass. Go buy some lights, relax, tidy up the house, prepare dinner." Emily was about to say something, but Marcus had already gotten up and left the room to take a shower. Emily lay there, overwhelmed by a very familiar feeling of headlessness. The following days and weeks passed like this. Emily had seizures at the office, palpitations, shortness of breath, dizziness. All were labeled as stress and ignored. Marcus once tried to stop her from going to the doctor. "Doctors create hypochondriacs," he said. "What you need is your body, not a psychologist." One day, Emily told Rebecca everything. Rebecca's face changed with worry. "Emily, this isn't normal. You should tell Marcus, and then you should go to the doctor. For your own good." "I know," said Emily, but he won't support it. He'll say it needs to be explained. He's not your husband, he's your healer, Rebecca said sharply. Emily, he looked at Rebecca, and for the first time, he truly began to understand that something was wrong, but admitting it would be too terrifying. 2 weeks later, Emily suffered a brain injury while returning from work. She collapsed on a bench in the square outside the office. There was city traffic outside, people passed by. No one stopped. Emily felt a tightness in her chest, her knees shaking and her eyelids closing. Girl, are you all right? She heard a voice. Her eyes were partially open. An old man in a thin coat was looking at her with furrowed brows. His hands were trembling, his face drawn. Yes, just stress, Emily murmured. The stick figure retreated. Where is your husband? Your friend? Everything's fine at the office, said Emily. The man looked at her strangely, then pulled something from his coat pocket, a diamond ring. Shall I wear this? Emily looked down. She wanted to see her bracelet. She remembered wearing it every day for weeks. Shiny brick and crystal Marcus had given her on their second birth, saying, for your health, you're very stressed and this will help. Bracelets like this are scientifically proven. Yes, Emily said quietly. My husband gave it to me. The man nodded and sat down on the bench. Listen, young woman, I'm a doctor, retired, and I worked as a cardiologist for 30 years. This kind of written stuff in many cases, it's harmful, especially if you have heart problems. Emily said, but she knew. A year ago, at her regular checkup, the doctor had said she had a slight arrhythmia, nothing. Most people live with something like that. How long have you been wearing it? 3 months, said Emily. And when did these seizures begin? Emily fell silent. 3 months. Exactly 3 months. She had her first seizure 2 weeks after putting on the bracelet. The man gave his name, Dr. Jonathan Hayes. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to Emily. Go to the doctor tonight. Go to the emergency room. Tell them about the arrhythmia and tell them when this bracelet started. They'll want to take it off. Emily was afraid to take the bracelet off. Marcus would be furious if he found out. But Dr. Hayes' words, those powerful words of a doctor, opened something up. Could it be? I wonder, did Marcus give her the bracelet on purpose? No, that couldn't have happened. He wanted to show her affection. He was just wrong about the stress. People are wrong sometimes. But instead of going home, Emily went to the emergency room. She had Dr. Hayes' business card in hand. In the emergency room, the doctors examined her. They took an ECG. You have arrhythmia, the doctor said, not mentioning her name. Emily, and has it been happening very frequently in recent months? Yes, said Emily. Could you take this bracelet off? Emily took it off. She placed the bracelet on the table. The doctor looked at it. A magnetic bracelet. This is something that doesn't work for people with arrhythmias and can sometimes be harmful. When do you wear it? For 3 months, said Emily. The doctor's face turned serious. Exactly the same time period when the arrhythmia started. This is no coincidence. Emily's heart started racing. My husband gave it to me. He was worried, but he wasn't worried enough to properly check your health, said the doctor. He knew you had arrhythmia, didn't he? Emily nodded. The doctor was with me, so he gave it to you consciously so you would know. It's not anxiety, it's control. To control your health, Emily. At a certain point, the flow of time began to feel different. Days passed, but some issues remained stuck in the same place. One realized that things that needed to be discussed were constantly being postponed. This postponement was initially perceived as a temporary situation. However, as it repeated itself, it ceased to be a coincidence. The clarity of decisions in life began to fade. It was unclear why certain steps were taken and why others weren't. This uncertainty fostered a sense of insecurity. Even though people thought the system was still in place, they realized that control was slowly shifting. Accepting this proved harder than they had anticipated. It was past midnight when Emily left the emergency room. She held a medical report in her hand and a piece of bare skin on her wrist. The bracelet was hidden in her bag in the pocket of her jacket. After getting into the car, she paused for a moment. Should she tell Marcus? How should she tell him? Hi, darling. I went to the emergency room and the doctor said you intentionally gave me something. That would hurt me. Emily's hands trembled on the steering wheel. The car sat motionless in the parking lot, the engine off. The exterior lights were off, Only the distant noise of the city could be heard. She picked up her phone. There were no messages from Marcus, even though it was past midnight. He sent a message, "I'm in the emergency room. Health issue. I'll be home late." The answer came 5 minutes later. "What happened? Where are you? What did the doctor say?" Emily erased the note and wanted to rewrite it, but she was too tired. She wrote, "Everything is fine. I'll show you the report. I need some rest." No further messages were received. When he arrived home, Marcus was sitting in the living room, phone in hand. He looked up at her. "Are you all right? What did the doctor say?" There was curiosity in his voice, but something else to perhaps nervousness, even something a little frightening. "I have arrhythmia," Emily said, pulling out the reports and placing them on the table. "The bracelet makes the arrhythmia worse. The doctor said magnetic bracelets can be harmful for people with arrhythmia." Marcus took the reports. He read them carefully. His expression didn't change. He put the papers down on the table and looked at Emily, but not with the same eyes. A different look. "A doctor? Just one doctor said this. There are 1,000 products like this online. The doctor could be wrong. But Marcus, you need to understand that my arrhythmia has started once I started wearing the bracelet." "Stress," Marcus said definitively. "Emily, you're a stressed person. You worry about everything. Go to the doctor, talk about stress. It has nothing to do with the bracelet." The doctor's negligence clearly showed arrhythmia, chest pressure, shortness of breath. Marcus said, perhaps a little too quickly, "Emily, I'm worried about you, but right now, this project is very critical. Instead of showing concern for me, you need to take care of yourself. You need to stay calm. You'll wear this bracelet. Don't go to the doctor. You'll only stress yourself out." Emily looked at him. A few minutes passed silence, so much silence. Marcus's words sounded so strange in real life, but hearing them clearly at that moment made them even stranger. He was telling me to calm down, but he was telling me to wear the bracelet. The bracelet was making the arrhythmia worse, but he wasn't telling me to go to the doctor. The project was important, but my health wasn't. He wanted to control me. Why didn't I understand that before? "No," Emily said calmly but sharply. "I'm not going to wear the bracelet anymore." Marcus stood up. "Emily, you. No, it's over. The doctor said the bracelet was harmful. The doctor knows I have arrhythmia, and I know about the calendar. I won't wear the bracelet anymore. You'll know," Marcus said, his voice low and threatening, "because I'm your husband, and you have to listen to me." Something crept into Emily's heart, not fear, but anger. "Listen? You told me the bracelet was helpful, but you knew I had arrhythmia. You knew." Marcus took a step forward. "I know. I'm worried about you. This bracelet won't help you. I wish I could worry about you. Control, always control. What if there's control behind this?" "Control? Emily, I love you. That's all. It's not about controlling you. It's about protecting you." "Protection isn't control," Emily said, almost shouting now. "Protection is listening, participating, supporting, going to the doctor, telling you to lie to us, telling you not to go to the ring. That's wristband control. That's manipulation." Marcus's face turned red. "I gave you the bracelet out of love, for your health. Do you know? A doctor said so. A retired cardiologist. He was cruel to you, but you gave it to him. Did you know that I have arrhythmia and that it could be harmful?" Silence. There was no answer inside. "You knew," Emily said very quietly. "You knew." Marcus placed his hand over her face. "Emily, don't do this. I know you want to blame me, but you're misunderstanding her. Just what? You wanted to control me. You wanted to make me dependent on you. Dependent on yourself, not on the doctor. The control was in your hands." Marcus spoke in a calm tone. "Emily, you've always been so dramatic. The doctor says something and you immediately think the worst. I love you. I do everything for you." "Don't," said Emily. "Don't call it love to do something that will worsen my health. Instead of showing concern, why did you encourage going to the doctor? Why did you listen to the report? Why did you take the bracelet and leave it?" Marcus looked at her, and Emily saw something in his eyes, perhaps regret or something else. But it was too late. What was done was done. "All I need is one night," Emily said. "Alone, a few days alone. I'm going to Rebecca's." Marcus pulled away. "No, don't go anywhere. Stay here. Talk to me. We'll sort this out." There's nothing to sort out, Emily said, starting to walk towards the bedroom. What you're talking about is trying to control. I've noticed that. It's not over yet. Marcus followed her. Emily, no matter what you say to me, I won't stop looking at you. We can't fight this. I'm your husband now, and I always will be. Do you understand that? Emily's spine. Yes, I get it. That's exactly what's scary. She grabbed a bag and quickly started packing. Marcus stood in the doorway, trying to stop her. No, you're not going. Get out of the way, Emily said, her voice firm but trembling. She pushed Marcus aside and left the bedroom. She walked quickly to the living room, then to the door. Marcus followed her. Emily, stop, please stop. But Emily's ears were closed. She slammed into her car, started the engine, and drove away, with Marcus still sitting in the doorway. Then she started running. Emily, come back. But he was already out on the street, in the city, heading to Rebecca's house. Rebecca was startled to see her at the door at 1:30. Emily was holding her bag and her eyes were red. Emily, what's wrong? Emily took off her shoes and told Rebecca everything. Rebecca listened, nodded, but her face became more serious. Emily, this is psychological abuse, she said. We found some videos of you, starting from childhood to understand the bad behavior, increasing control. He's trying to isolate you. He watches to make you feel bad. Emily said, yes, exactly. Something inside her broke, perhaps the final crack. Maybe I was wrong from the beginning. Maybe I thought I loved Marcus. Maybe I learned to love myself a little less while I was loving myself. Rebecca, he hugged Emily. Find a lawyer. Get the police. Get your life back. It was noticed that areas previously left unattended were now empty. The balance of responsibilities had been silently disrupted. The resulting picture didn't become clear all at once, but over time. This clarity was unsettling but inevitable, and people realized that ignoring it was no longer possible. The next day, Emily didn't go to work. Rebecca searched everywhere for information about legal support. So Emily found a lawyer from among our various colleagues, Patricia Nelson. Emily called her and explained everything. Patricia's voice was calm and professional. Miss Emily, this is psychological abuse. I need all the documents, reports, and threats. He's making threats, Emily said. He texted me so many times last night. They're all here. Patricia said, keep everything safe and document it with the doctor. Document every time he lied to you. The following weeks passed very quickly. Patricia prepared the divorce petition. Emily signed it. Marcus was served with the notice. He spoke like a madman on the phone. No, you're nothing without me. You'll regret this. Everything I shared with you is mine. But Emily wasn't listening anymore. The court hearing was approaching. Marcus had hired a lawyer, an expensive one. He arrived at the court in a black suit, looking confident. Emily was sitting at the table with Patricia. The judge sat down in the afternoon. The plaintiff, Emily Vance. Please present the reasons for your petition, he said. Patricia stood up. Your Honor, my client has been subjected to prolonged psychological abuse. The defendant controlled her, manipulated her, and knowingly harmed her health. Then she presented medical reports, ECG results. She read the doctor's statement. She read Marcus's threatening messages. She played back the recorded calls. You won't wear this bracelet. You're nothing without me. Marcus's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, this is merely a spouse's concern. Miss Emily is dramatic. These threats are on the side of emotions. The defendant provided the product in good faith. The doctor's results are unclear. Many doctors say these bracelets are beneficial, but the doctors also clearly stated that it is harmful to those with arrhythmias. Patricia said sharply, and the defendant knew this. The report was reviewed by a cardiologist. The defendant gave this to the museum, knowingly causing harm. The judge frowned. Mr. Marcus, can you comment on the lady? Marcus stood up, his voice calm and emotional. Your Honor, I only wanted to help her. I love her. I had no intention of controlling her. I'm worried. That's all. But when you saw that it was worsening the woman's health, why did you encourage her to go to the doctor? The judge asked. Marcus replied, I thought going to the doctor would only cause more stress. The judge shook his head. Another reason. That line about emotions, you're nothing without me, what does that even mean? Marcus had written Susan on the wall. An additional word. said by anxiety. But is it systematic? Is he trying to control it in the conversation? Then Patricia continued, Your Honor, this is a clear example of psychological abuse. Increased control, manipulation, lying about health issues, threats. This isn't just one spouse being worried or anything like that. This is one person trying to bring the other down. The judge reviewed all the documents. He continued questioning Marcus. Miss, did you suggest going to the doctor? No. Why? Because doctors misdiagnose stress, all of this stress. But you have medical reports, maps, and documented statements from doctors. Why did you change your calendar after your health deteriorated? Why did you prevent him from going to the doctor? Marcus didn't answer. The judge ruled the marriage is dissolved. Mrs. Emily was controlled and subjected to psychological abuse. Mr. Marcus is the defendant. He is responsible for financial support. All jointly owned property will be divided. Something snapped inside Emily, a tremendous sense of relief. She was free, legally, officially free. Marcus walked out of the office with an angry expression on his face. He looked at Emily, a threat in his eyes. But standing in front of the judge, he could do nothing. A few weeks later, Emily found a new apartment. Small but herself. No Marcus. Rebecca helped out there most days. Emily went back to work, getting promoted to assistant manager. A strong woman, Rebecca said. Respectful. Emily felt respected. Sometimes people start asking themselves the same questions. Why wasn't it noticed sooner? Why wasn't it addressed earlier? This questioning is more about understanding than blaming, because the answers are not meant to change the past, but to shape the future. This awareness creates a slow but profound impact. The balance established within one's inner world has been disrupted. On one hand, there is the comfort provided by habit, and on the other, the warning of intuition. These two voices clash for a long time. One doesn't know which to listen to, but as intuition falls silent, peace also disappears. 3 months later, Emily was sitting on a park bench. She had a cup of coffee and an open book on her lap. The sun was setting, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. There were few people in the park, an elderly couple strolling, a mother playing with her child. Emily savored the sense of peace she felt. No one was controlling her. No one was telling her what to do, where to go, who to talk to. Her phone vibrated. A work email, a new project proposal from Silas. Emily smiled. After the promotion, she'd grown to love her job even more, because now she was doing it for herself, not for Marcus's success. Hello, said a familiar voice. Emily looked up. An old man stood there, holding a slightly tilted head, a dark coat, white hair, a wrinkled but warm face. Dr. Jonathan Hayes. Dr. Hayes, Emily said, smiling. Hello, could I find you? He asked, sitting on the bench. How are you? Great, Emily said sincerely. Very, very good. I'm divorced. A new apartment, a new job. Free. Dr. Hayes nodded. There was satisfaction in his eye. I can see it. I can see your breathing. When I first saw you, you could barely breathe. Now, calm, deep, relaxed breaths. Emily thought about it. She was right. The pressure in her chest had completely disappeared. Her heart rate was normal. She slept soundly. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of having a seizure when she woke up. What did the doctor's report say? Asked Dr. Hayes. I still have arrhythmia, but it's under control. I take medication, and it improved when I reduced stress. Since I took the bracelet off, I haven't had any seizures. Exactly, said Dr. Hayes, from the day you took the bracelet off. It's no coincidence, Emily. What happened to you is very serious. But you made the right choice. You chose yourself. Emily's eyes welled up with tears. Thank you. If it weren't for you that night, I might still be wearing the bracelet. Even though I felt sick, maybe I would have listened to what Marcus said. But you didn't listen, said Dr. Hayes. You listened to your body. You listened to the doctor. You trusted yourself. That's called honesty, Emily. Very few women can do that. Emily shook her head. I almost failed. I went back a couple of times, even in court after hearing it. Marcus's words echoed in my ears. I don't want to control. I'm just worried. Maybe I was wrong, I thought. But you didn't hear, did you? No, Patricia, my lawyer, told me something important. Abusers always mask themselves with concern, but concern isn't control. Concern listens. Concern believes. What did Marcus listen to? Did he tell him what to believe? Dr. Hayes smiled. Exactly. What's happening to you is very common, but very few people recognize it. Husbands, boyfriends, fathers they control under the guise of love. They call it love, but they're controlling. And victims, often because they think it's love, don't resist. Emily sat quietly. Now, I'll tell other women, if someone wants to control their own health, that's not love. That's abuse. Yes, said Dr. Hayes, tell them. Tell others. Tell them on social media. Maybe other women will hear your story and come out themselves. Emily thought about it. Maybe she could start a podcast. Maybe she could write a blog. Maybe other people were going through a similar situation and needed support. Thank you, said Emily. Hugging Dr. Hayes, the old doctor embraced her with his thin, frail arms. There was a feeling of him being like a father to her. Safe, protective, but never controlling. Take care of yourself, said Dr. Hayes. Your health, your choices, your life. Nobody can do that for you. Only you. I'll do it, said Emily. Dr. Hayes left, his cane cracking at the exit. Emily sat in the park, watching the sunset. The sky was red, then yellow, then blue. A moon rose and stars appeared. Emily picked up her phone and texted Rebecca, I'm thinking of sharing my story. I want to start a podcast to talk about psychological abuse. Are you in? Rebecca responded instantly, yes, that's a great idea. Let's get started. In the following months, Emily started a podcast, Breathing Freely. In the first episode, she told her own story. The bracelet, the control, the threat, the escape, the trial. The production is raw but sincere. First week, 500 listeners. Second week, 2,000. Third week, 5,000. Emily cried when she read the comments. The women were telling similar stories. My husband also controls me, but he says it's loving. Mine also prevented me from going to the doctor. Mine also gave me these kinds of bracelets, and I started getting sick. Emily answered them all. She talked about finding a lawyer, about going to the doctor, about listening to your own health. One woman wrote, when I heard your story, I also quit. I went to court. I won. Thank you. Emily read the article 5 times. She cried not from happiness, but from heartbreak. 6 months later, Silas, he called Emily into his office. I listened to your podcast, he said. It's very brave. At the company, I'm sorry. If I had known about this sooner, I would have done it. But now, I'm proud of you. Women's Resources wants to start a mentoring program with you regarding psychological abuse for employees. Emily smiled. She accepted the instruction. A few months later, the program began. Once a week, Emily would have women and some men from the company come in, tell their stories. She would listen and offer support. Some decided to leave. Some went to consult their spouses. Some started going to the doctor. Life changed. One day, Emily's mother called. I listened to your podcast, she said. Her mother's voice was strange, shaky. Emily, I went through that too. To your father. For years. I want to talk to you. Maybe I can. Emily talked to her mother for hours. Her uncles talked about the past, control, manipulation, how her mother began to resist, and finally, how her mother began to reclaim her own identity. Emily's life story changed. Not just her own, but her family's story. For generations in her lineage, women had been controlled and psychologically abused. But now, perhaps change had begun. Over time, this unease transforms into a clear awareness. Things become clearly visible. Small details begin to carry great meaning. This awareness doesn't stop life, but it changes its direction. And the person begins to redraw their own path. A year later, Emily moved out of her new apartment bigger, nicer, with light streaming through the windows. She stood in her kitchen, made coffee, and went out onto the balcony. The city was sparkling in the morning light. She thought she'd visit the local park. Perhaps she could find Dr. Hayes there. She'd like to bring him a book, Psychological Abuse and Exit, written by a therapist and recommended by Emily. Her phone vibrated. A work email, a new project, a new challenge. But this time, Emily isn't afraid because she knows herself. She knows her health. She knows her worth. She pushed the coffee cup down and stepped outside. The air was clean. Spring was beginning. Flowers were starting to bloom. Everything was new. Emily took a deep breath, free, relaxed, without a bracelet, without control, just her own voice. In the park, he saw Dr. Hayes, the same cane, the same jacket. He walked towards him, smiled. Hello, doctor. Emily, he said, his face gleaming in the sunlight. I watched you. I listened to your podcast. all the episodes. Do you like it? Very, very brave. I'm proud of you. What I told you was true your success. It's your essence. It's your choice. Nobody else could have done it for you. Emily took Dr. Hayes' arm. They walked together in the park. People were strolling. Children were playing. Life went on. But this time, Emily felt more like an observer than a participant. Free, independent, uncontrolled. Thank you, said Emily, for everything. That night, if it weren't for you. But I was there, said Dr. Hayes. Coincidence, I think, or fate. In my opinion, you needed to learn. And you did. Now, others are learning. This is for most. A life, a choice. Millions are affected. Emily hugged Dr. Hayes. The old doctor held her in his thin arms. Perhaps he was her father. Perhaps he was her diagnosis. But certainly, he was Emily's savior. But more importantly, Emily had become her own savior. The sun was rising high in the park. Emily turned around and walked towards her apartment. Without her bracelet, without Marcus, without fear. Just her voice, her choice, her life. Perhaps this is the best choice. Perhaps this is true freedom. This story is completed not so much by the events themselves, but by the mark they leave on the person. When certain truths are revealed, life can feel as if it has stopped for a moment. One doesn't know what to hold on to, what step to take, but time gradually simplifies this uncertainty. Looking back, what happened cannot be confined to a single moment. They are the results of a long process, growing from small choices. Therefore, making sense of what happened also takes time. Being honest with oneself is far more healing than searching for someone to blame. This story reminds us how precious, but also how fragile trust can be. When people trust, they can forget to protect themselves. Yet, trusting doesn't mean completely letting go. Being mindful doesn't mean giving up on loving. The difficult part is regaining balance after what has happened. Even when life feels out of control, small decisions can make a big difference. Taking a step, asking a question, not postponing something can sometimes change everything. People realize they have control over their own lives again. Seeking support during this process is a strength, not a weakness. Sharing lightens the burden and makes things easier to understand. Knowing you're not alone is one of the most important parts of healing. Every story isn't lived in isolation. Its effects touch others as well. Life doesn't always continue as it was before, but that doesn't mean it will get worse. Sometimes it's different, sometimes simpler, sometimes more cautious. This new state can become a place where one gets to know oneself better. What remains at the end of this story is not a list of losses. What remains is the awareness gained. This awareness makes every step taken in the future more solid, and a person continues on their path not so much with what happened to them, but with the meaning they give to those events. Some stories don't remain unfinished. They transform. This is one of them. And this transformation is the silent sign of a new beginning.